There we go. Mr. McGuinty, seconded by Ms. Latanzio, moves that Bill C-232, an act respecting Heritage Month, be now read a third time and do pass. And the honourable member for Ottawa South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good evening to you, Mr. Speaker, and good evening to colleagues in the House, and good evening to those who may be watching these proceedings. I'm delighted to speak at third reading on my private member's bill C-232, which would designate every April as Arab Heritage Month. I'd like to thank members from all sides of the House for their support thus far. I'd like to note that the Standing Committee on Heritage reported the bill back with no amendments. Mr. Speaker, Bill C-232 recognizes and celebrates the historic mark that Arab Canadians have made and continue to make in building our great Canadian society. You know, Mr. Speaker, I've had the privilege for the past 3 days to spend 3 days in senior briefings at the United Nations in New York on water and sustainability and refugee and other global security issues. And while there, it struck me that I felt as a Canadian very much at home. Very much at home because I think you leave the United Nations with an understanding that we're very much all in this together. And the miracle of the planet that we live on needs us to come together. And my bill, I think, addresses some of that, as I think listeners will conclude in just a few moments. In the past, also, Mr. Speaker, I've had the privilege of serving as a Deputy Minister Executive in the Privy Council Office for 10 years. I'd like to take a moment to give those watching tonight a bit of a snapshot of what goes on in the work of an MP and the nature of the variety of work that is undertaken in my constituency and why that has led me to bring this bill forward. I have the honour of representing Ottawa South, where we have the second largest Arabic-speaking population of the 338 electoral districts in Canada. In fact, we have residents from over 100 countries of origin who speak over 80 languages. That's not only an opportunity, but it's in fact a special responsibility. A special responsibility to show the world that we can all live together, work together, and learn from each other, a theme I'll return to in a moment. There are 43 schools in my district, and before the pandemic I made it a point to visit them and, where possible, have the students visit me here on Parliament Hill. I tell the kids that they were rich, and when they would look at each other in bewilderment and fumble through their pockets looking for change and for coins and cash, I would explain that I didn't mean rich in terms of money, but in terms of culture, language, religion, dance, dress, food types, trying to instill in them at an early age an appreciation of the fullness of their world. Every week, Canada receives representatives from other countries, and they ask all of us in this House, how do you do it? How do you do it in Canada? How are we managing to build a society that is inclusive, where there is room for all? Of course, a perfectly imperfect society, Mr. Speaker, a work in progress, but they ask us each and every day when they visit. I tell them that I'm out of patience with the word tolerance. I'm convinced we've moved on. I don't think it's about tolerating someone anymore. It's about celebrating everyone. It's not only the right thing to do, it's the inclusive thing to do. It's not only the inclusive thing to do, it turns out it's the economic thing to do. Only a foolish country wouldn't avail itself of all of the talent within its borders. Only a foolish country wouldn't deploy all of that talent. We need to find and nurture as much talent as we can. This is Canada's privileged opportunity. This is Canada's undeniable responsibility, along with our special responsibility to show the rest of the world that we are a diverse and inclusive place, that we're all in this together, building a society which is the envy of the world. Mr. Speaker, my mother raised 10 children, and along the way she worked as a nurse for 50 years. She also helped to build 2 businesses. She was an extraordinary role model. She was an extraordinary person. She used to tell her 10 children that we had a choice to make. If we pulled apart, we'd feel like we were 5. But if we pulled together, we'd feel like we were 20. And to pull together, she would say, that means leaving no one behind. That means ensuring opportunity for all. So finding and nurturing the talent in everyone around us and deploying it to the benefit of the country and to the benefit of each other is in fact in our enlightened self-interest. Let me draw off some recent professional experience to share some insights on questions of diversity and inclusion, which also underpin my bill. It's illustrative, I think, Mr. Speaker. I have the honour of being the founding chair of Canada's National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians. In March of 2020, we released a groundbreaking report which helps to illustrate how seeking out all the talent around us and deploying it is absolutely essential. And that was an analysis of diversity and inclusion in the security and intelligence community. We know a diverse workforce is made up of individuals with an array of identities, abilities, perspectives, and experience. We know an inclusive workforce is fair, equitable, supportive, welcoming, and respectful. Why did the committee decide to review these issues in the security intelligence community in the first place? Well, first, there are persistent challenges to increasing diversity and inclusion in the S&I community, even after decades of legislation, multiple reports, and repeated calls for change. Second, the committee believes that organizations responsible for defending Canada and protecting Canadians must leverage the broad range of skills, talent, experience, and perspectives that this magnificent country has to offer. And third, as shown in numerous international reports and studies conclusively on security and intelligence organizations worldwide, a diverse and inclusive workforce is critical to operational success and performance. In other words, the more diverse and the more inclusive a workforce is, turns out the higher performing it is. That's a good thing. That's an inclusive thing. That's a fair thing. And that's an economic thing. Our committee saw evidence that the leaders of our national security agencies are all committed to improving diversity and inclusion in their respective workforce, but we have a long way to go. And as detailed in our report, that needs sustained leadership, a broad commitment, and increased accountability right across the community if those organizations are going to fully reflect and include Canada's diversity. Inspired by those ideas, Mr. Speaker, I'm honoured to speak again to my private member's bill to establish the month of April in Canada's Arab Heritage Month. On a more personal note, in my own family, I was privileged to have a Syrian-Canadian godfather, one of the original founding Syrian-Canadian families in this, my hometown of Ottawa, a man of great intelligence, kindness, and integrity. His origins were humble. In fact, they were steeped in poverty. And his values instilled in me a deep appreciation for hard work, giving back, and public service. He was the penultimate Canadian. No access to formal education. Loved this country far less critically than I might say I do. I've always believed that Canada's diversity is its single greatest source of strength. It's a conclusion I have arrived at having had the privilege of living on 4 continents and working and traveling in over 80 countries before ever entering elected public service. The belief that Canada's diversity is its single greatest source of strength informs this bill. And it's a belief I have reaffirmed over and over again during my almost 19 years in this House. And nowhere has this been more evident and obvious than in our Arab Canadian community. Arab Canadians from all walks of life continue to make extremely important contributions to social, economic, and political life in Canada, as well as to Canada's cultural fabric, including through literature, music, food, and fashion, in science and research, academia, public service, the professions, and business. Arab Heritage Month in Canada will be a terrific opportunity for Arab Canadians to be recognized, finally, for their contributions to this amazing country. It will give us the opportunity to recognize and pay tribute to the countless Arab entrepreneurs and small business owners right across Canada who do so much to support their communities. From the diversity of my riding, Mr. Speaker, to my own godfather, to my many friends in the National Capital Region Arab community, and beyond. Perhaps it is more clear to those watching tonight as to why I introduced this bill, and I'm working so hard with all of you, colleagues, to make sure it is passed. The enactment of Arab Heritage Month in Canada would ensure that the contributions of Arab Canadians are recognized, shared, and celebrated. Celebrated, Mr. Speaker, across this great country, not just every April, but every day. It's long past time that we take up that mantle and celebrate that incredible contribution. Mr. Speaker, we are always, always stronger when we pull together. Thank you very much for your support, colleagues. I welcome your questions and your comments. Merci beaucoup.